Potato Gate. Weekend update.
Sometimes you're so busy killing women that you forget where you left your bloody machine gun.
Game changer.
To me, I've been here the whole time.
Chances are, if you live in the UK, you've heard of at least one of these cultural moments. But do you remember the last live comedy show you went to? Do you really tune into a weekly comedy show? Does anyone anymore? Or do we all just watch the TikTok clips? In the age of the internet, who really owns the future of comedy? Let's talk about it. The unstructured nature of the UK comedy sector makes it almost impossible to find data on nationwide ticket sales over time. But from the little data I could find, the impression is far from positive. The 2025 UK Comedy Survey showed that the average annual turnover was £527,000, down from not over £950,000 the previous year. This, alongside rising transport, food and accommodation costs without a ticket price cost to match, shows that the state of UK comedy is dire. People just aren't going to their local comedy nights in the same way anymore, so comedians have to turn to YouTube or TikTok to try and find an audience, or even hope that they can get on a show like Taskmaster or the coveted Netflix special. But is this really achievable for smaller comedians, or do you just have to hope you go viral? All this leaves the future of live comedy in the UK in a precarious state. But despite this, the same can't be said for UK comedy as a whole. SNL UK was announced in February this year, and the initial reaction from both the public and myself wasn't amazing. The US version isn't particularly funny, and I know I don't personally watch it unless I'm a huge fan of The Guest of the Week, but maybe the UK version would be different. The show was initially contracted for 6 episodes on Sky, another thing people had reservations about, but let's be honest, the British public do love to complain, and the hate on the show before it even started probably wasn't really warranted. Then the cast was announced, a group of 11 British comics who were relatively unknown. Sure, they might be big in the comedy world, but if you showed them to your average person, probably would know one of them, if that. So on the 21st of March, I sat down, having never watched a full episode of SNL before, and I watched SNL UK alongside 226,000 other Brits. Did I go in skeptical to the first episode? Yes. Did I have a great time? Also, yes. I can't lie, the first episode was very obvious that it was in fact the first episode, but I did still find myself laughing at some of the jokes and overall enjoying the show. So the critic reaction was mixed, but you know what? When I opened TikTok the next day, I was met with hundreds of videos of Jack Shep as Diana.
Thanks so much for hosting this dinner party, Sir David.
And I think that is what truly matters. And the pattern continued pretty similarly for the next couple of weeks. Around 500,000 people watched the first episode the week it aired. This number quickly declined to around 200,000 by the season finale. Just for reference, Celebrity Traitors has an average viewership of 13.3 million. And I know that's an ambitious comparison, but that's what it takes to become a nationwide sensation. So maybe a fairer comparison, still ambitious, is Taskmaster, which has an average of around 1.5 million. But is TV viewership really how you break into cultural consciousness? Let's be honest, that was probably the way 20 years ago, but not really today. SNL UK had over 200 million views across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And I think that's a really positive start. The show's been praised for its ability to be completely unhinged, and I think this, alongside its probably British references to Shakespeare, British pork, or David Attenborough, are what really make the show. Weekend Update is definitely one of the strongest and most viral
Coming up on tonight's Weekend Update, paedophilia.
I've never even heard of BTS.
sections of the show. And the show definitely benefits from being on Sky here and makes some edgy jokes that might not be allowed in other places. But I know I am constantly seeing clips of Weekend Update in my group chats, even with people who don't watch SNL UK. And arguably clips is how you get talked about. Just think about all those edits of Alan Carr as a traitor.
People couldn't believe it. Where's Tom? Why Tom? Well, he's been murdered. Deal with it.
You know, that's really what you gotta do. And honestly, I just love Annie Magliano and Paddy Young, so It's great. And I'm not the first to acknowledge the importance of clips. Marina Hyde on The Rest is Entertainment even went as far as to say that SNL UK is designed to be clipped and only made so that they can get those viral clips, because you've got to have a source material before you can have the clips, right? But if this is the case, why don't they post all of their sketches like they do in the US? In case you weren't aware, US SNL post all of their sketches that don't contain copyrighted music, or, you know, some of the like super edgy ones aren't posted, but most of them are on social media. Whereas UK SNL only post about half of their sketches, and the rest remain exclusive to Now TV, which is far from the UK's most popular streaming service, with only 2 million subscriptions in the UK as opposed to Netflix's 18 million. So I think by uploading their sketches to social media, SNL UK could have much of a wider cultural impact, but obviously it's a profit thing, so they're going to keep that behind paywall, at least for now. SNL UK has been renewed for a second 12 episode season in September, so maybe this time they'll take inspiration from SNL and gain some more of that cultural capital online. We'll see. I'd love to see it personally. But either way, I do still think SNL UK is a great way to showcase smaller British comedians and also celebrate British artists as well. I know I loved seeing their music lineup, like Wolf Alice, love them. The other bands were great too, of course. I just love Wolf Alice, and I'm seeing them live soon with The Last Dinner Party, who I also love. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. I know I literally just said that I did not know any of the SNL UK cast before they started on SNL UK, but that was luck. Both Andrew Mardiano, half of Weekend Update, and, you know, my personal favourite SNL UK cast member, not that they're not all great, and Emma Siddy, who's also part of the SNL UK cast, are featured on seasons 20 and 18 of Taskmaster, respectively, so I probably should have said them the other way around. And alongside Live at the Apollo, Taskmaster is one of the quickest ways you can grow your UK audience. Like, who doesn't love Taskmaster? What's interesting about Taskmaster is the sheer number of clips that they post to YouTube for free. Sure, the full show is free to watch in the UK as well, with ads and a TV license on Channel 4, but the YouTube channel itself has over 2 million subscribers, and the views that the full tasks and task compilations get are insane, and they frequently just post full tasks far beyond what most companies or most shows would put out there for advertising purposes. Sure, this might seem counterintuitive. Why make the clips free on YouTube when you're making money from people coming to your site and watching them with ads? But the situation's even more complex when you realise that you can in fact watch full episodes of Taskmaster on YouTube. Some of the older series you can just watch for free, and the newer ones, $1.99 per episode, $12.99 for a series, and they are yours in standard definition. It's more for high definition, but like, does it actually make a difference? No, maybe that's because I watch everything on an iPad. So if we've decided from this that YouTube is not just being used as an advertising social media anymore, what is it being used as? Could we go as far as to say a streaming service? It's no secret that YouTube has tried to be a streaming service. In fact, it's tried again and again. And yeah, it's still firmly in the social media category. YouTube is the website where anyone can reach an audience. So, as you would expect, countless comedy series have been established here. You've got scripted, unscripted, amateur, proper established comedians, anything you want, really. And yeah, it's still firmly in the social media category. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about its place in the world of music and music streaming, but that is not this video. Even though we've established that YouTube, TikTok, social media in general is vital to maintain cultural conversation around a comedy show, it's rarely the end goal anymore. In fact, increasingly, formats that started on YouTube are leaving the site, going elsewhere, because who wants to be a YouTuber? Who would want to do that? You should subscribe, by the way. A really good example of this is Minimum Wage, a web series that you might have seen on YouTube or TikTok. It's actually done by the same people as The Hunger Games, but better, if you saw that last year. They've recently announced a 28 episode series, which impressive in the world of 8 episode series, which is a whole other video, to come out soon in the near future on Netflix. So why not stay on YouTube? The answer is pretty simple. Much like the stand-up comedians that we've already talked about, scripted comedians want the same thing. Netflix special. They want access to a much wider audience and quickly. And Netflix can give you that, as well as likely paying better than YouTube. Stand-up specials, it's a bit different. People often break even because Netflix has like loads of really specific filming requirements. But I feel like something scripted, it might be different. I don't really know on that one, I can't lie. However, what is interesting is the show is still being produced by American High, fitting in with a wider rise of creator-led platforms. Let's face it, big streaming services and broadcasting companies might still be the easiest way to reach a wide audience in an increasingly fragmented internet landscape. But these big companies often come with drawbacks, with restrictions or relinquishing creative control. We've already talked about why SNL UK benefits from being on Sky. And as creators strive for authenticity and creative freedom, we've seen a big rise in the past couple of years of pretty big creators turning away from YouTube. You've likely heard of Patreon, the site where you can go to see bonus material, uncut versions of things, or even just the censor-free version that YouTube wouldn't let the creator monetize. I've actually recently seen people using Substack in a similar way, which is really interesting to me. I have a Substack, by the way, it's free. You should go check it out, link in bio. But yeah, this is all well and good for your favourite creators, but personally, I know there's a very, 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 very limited number of creators that I'm willing to pay between £5 and £15 a month just to see a couple extra videos. Like, I'll stick to my YouTube videos with ads, thanks. And this is where creator-led platforms come in. You might have heard of Dropout, the company in charge of Game Changer, Very Important People, and Dimension 20, among many other shows. Dropout is a fascinating example of this, and it originally started out as College Humor YouTube channel, but it's now developed into a fully fledged streaming service that even had to add a second tier because people wanted to pay more per month to access this site. And it's not just small comedians that they've had on their shows, they've had so many people you might recognise, including SNL's Jeremy Colhane on their most recent, like second to most recent episode of Game Changer. I also think Dropout's really interesting that they've almost reinvented television because they have essentially a TV channel on their streaming site where you can just click on and something's playing. Like, have we really gone full circle back to wanting to watch network television, but better version of it? Potentially. Again, not this video. I will make more videos about this stuff. These are just throwing this out there. But Dropout's not the only one doing this. Nebula is another example of a creator-run site which has countless originals from hundreds of your favourite YouTubers. And again, this is sort of a more reliable, ad-free platform than YouTube and allows creators to make what they want to with less censorship and a more reliable paycheck. Again, for around £6 a month. I think they have a lifetime subscription as well. I don't know. I've never really properly gotten into Nebula, but like I want to. But I can't sign up for like every single streaming service ever as much as I want to. Because I do love my Now TV membership. I needed it to watch Heated Rivalry and SNL UK, which are the priorities, and now I've signed up for a year and I can't escape. And then we have examples like Smosh, Mythical, and Try Guys, who kind of exist in a similar internet comedy world to Dropout, and have all managed to create their own production companies or studios. These are owned by the creators themselves, allowing them to remain in control creatively while also being able to pay themselves equitably and removing some of the limits that you would have from a larger broadcasting company. And it also means that they get workers' rights that are sometimes hard to come by in the US, like, you know, maternity leave, fair working conditions, you know, tricky stuff like that. So if we have all these new companies, do we really still need the old broadcasting companies and streaming services? I think for now, at least, the answer is yes. While it's obviously possible to find your audience online, they're often a lot more fragmented, and you know, the internet can be like a bubble sometimes. You might think everyone knows this thing, and then you mention it to your friends and they've never heard of it. But featuring on a main broadcast or streaming service is definitely the easiest way to go mainstream and create that cultural capital, at least at the moment. As we've established, it's not the broadcast itself that keeps the show relevant, but rather the social media action around it. SNL UK might not have had the best viewing statistics, even if they are better than the other shows in that time slot, but a much larger public has been made aware of it through the clips and social media, much in the same way that people love the Taskmaster compilations. As traditional media begins to rely on social media as more than just an advertising tool, it makes way for the continued growth of social media comedy, which in turn makes way for the growth of these creator-led platforms. It's still really early days for these studios, and most of them have 10 to 15 years of YouTube experience on their hands, which definitely helps. So I think they're definitely something to keep an eye on, and maybe in a couple years they'll become a real competitor to traditional broadcasts, especially in the world of comedy, which I feel like is slightly ahead other disciplines. Like, you don't really see dramas done in the same way. So that's what I think. What do you think? Who will own the future of comedy? Do we actually still need those shows to get the original clips from? Or, you know, TikTok dramas, AI Fruit Love Island, didn't even talk about that. That's a whole form of comedy. Is that going to replace all other comedy? Maybe not. Maybe. Don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, because I really enjoyed making this and I would love to make more videos. I really, really want to make something about vampires, which is really random. But yeah, that's the plan. Please subscribe. Please, 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 please. I'm nearly 100 subscribers. I'm like 3 away. Please subscribe. That was really depressing. Anyway, I'm also going to Harry Styles next week, so if you want to see a Harry Styles vlog, subscribe for that. And I will see you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!